Hello. And so today I decided. So the other day. So I've seen this trend on YouTube, and it's been going on for like a year or so, where people make tier lists, and I was like, hey, let me make a tier list. I wouldn't know what to put on it, but then I realized, hey, there's a movie series I really adore. It's the Final Destination series. Let me rank all of the deaths, not including the major accidents that occur that are like the impetus behind the movies, just the individual deaths. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Ignore all those tabs in the top, please. So these will be the tiers. S tier is like best, so let's start with D tier. D tier will be the deaths. These will be lame deaths. C tier, not quite on the bottom. Jesus, my dyslexia really is kicking in today. Goat deaths, right? Best of the best. A, pretty good deaths. Almost top tier. That might be too long of a description, but who cares? Serviceable deaths. Oh my god. These will be the a bit more effort. You must be logged in to create a new template. Alrighty, let me do that. I don't have a Twitter. I'll make a Twitter, I guess. Give me one moment. As I've probably stated this numerous times, I'm a huge fan of the Final Destination series. I love all the movies, even the Final Destination, which is part 4, which is absolute garbage, but I love it. And I'll be ranking them going movie by movie. Billy. I love Billy. Billy's whole character in the first movie is Carter, you dick.
Carter, you dick!
That's all I remember him ever saying.
Carter, you dick!
That's too
Carter,
bad.
you dick!
I do like his style. Baseball cap, giant jersey. Kind of like a younger version of Kevin Smith. His death is quite amazing. He gets decapitated.
You're dead! You're dead!
It's pretty stunning, actually. I remember the first time watching that. I mean, the first time I've seen any of these deaths, I was like a kid. I was like probably no more than 10, probably 8. I was really young when I watched a couple of these. I shouldn't have been watching this as a kid. I will say great deaths. He goes in great deaths. Possibility to be top tier. It's good. It's simple. This was back when, it was the first film in the franchise. So, quick decapitation, catches you off guard. Simple, nice, to the point. Then we have the man himself, Carter.
That's too
Carter,
bad.
you dick!
Your stereotypical bully. His death, it isn't explicitly shown on screen, but it's heavily implied.
I told you were next! So who's next?
The events that lead to his death are absolutely amazing. It's this Rube Goldberg. Most of the deaths in this are Rube Goldberg-esque death contraptions, but his is like the first to really like show how far the death sequences could go. And also, his death is the last death in the film, even though you don't see it. But his death would set the precedent for every single movie afterwards in the series to kind of end on essentially a giant FU to the audience where, oh yeah, you think they're surviving characters? Well, let me kill them all off. I like his death. Even though you don't see his death, it's still amazing. It's what leads up to it. It's definitely GOAT. It's goated death. Miss Valerie Loudon. out of all the characters in that first film, she's the meh. I really didn't care about her character. I don't know. Her whole sequence was alright. She like spills something over her computer. There's a trail of fire. She falls down. She gets a knife. She gets a shard of glass in her throat, and then she gets a knife. The knife falls on her, and the chair like pushes it in or whatever, and then she explodes. It's alright. It's serviceable. It's a bit cartoonish at points, but it's alright. It's pretty cool. Terry. I love Terry. Terry is amazing.
Enough! Both of you! I will not let this plane crash be the most important thing in my life! God!
And she exists for only one reason in the movie, and that's to die.
And if you want to waste your life beating the shit out of Alex every time you see him, then you can just drop fucking dead.
Yeah, that's literally her whole character in the film. I love her death, though. It's quick, to the point, it catches you off guard. I can't state how much I like this one, too. This one, great death. Possibility to be top tier. I might rearrange these later on, depending on how I, kind of feel they rank against each other, so I might change this up a bit. Then we got my homie Todd. The first death in the series, not including the plane crash of 200 people, but the first actual death sequence where we get to see, I guess, death coming after them. His is pretty horrifying. Out of actually all of the ones up there, his is the most horrifying because all of theirs are quick, except for Miss Luden, but I didn't care about her. Todd ends up getting strangled, and he's struggling for a good couple minutes. And then the sequence where his eyes go bloodshot, that's horrific. That's horrific. I'll put his great deaths. Possibility to be top tier. Those are all the deaths in the first film. Should be. I triple checked this. Then you have, what's this kid's name? Brian. This is the kid who gets blown up by the grill. It's pretty. I don't know why he's the first one that I'm ranking, but he's like Carter, where the film ends and you're like, oh, happy ending, and then he blows up on you. It's serviceable. It does what needs to be done. Then we have Clear Rivers, who is probably one of my favorite characters from the series. She's the only character that's in multiple movies. She's in the first and the second. Really like her character. Kind of sad to see her die. It's in a fiery explosion. Not that I would have wanted to see her go through some gruesome ordeal, but, it was just an explosion. So, for a major character, I would say, could use a little more effort. Eugene, he dies in the same explosion as Clear, so... And I didn't care about Eugene, so you go there. Evan. I love the whole sequence with Evan. It's amazing. There's many hints as to how he could possibly die. His hands down caught in the garbage disposal. There's a fire. There's explosions. He ends up dying with the fire escape going into his eye. The legs of the ladder. You know what? Great death. Then we have Katie, Karen, Kat. Her death is amazing. Her death is one of the deaths I remember vividly having seen as a kid. There are many aspects and many scenes in the Final Destination series that make you terrified of everyday things. And her death terrified me. I did not want an airbag going off in my face.
Could you be a little quieter with that thing, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll just put it on quiet mode.
That would be good.
Kudos to traumatizing me and scarring me as a kid. And amazing death, so GOAT. It's GOAT. It's amazing. Traumatized me as a kid. That's always a plus. Nora. Pretty cool death. Getting your head caught in an elevator. That's pretty scary. Also, kind of terrified me of the reason why, as a kid, I would jump in and out of elevators if I ever used one. Didn't want my head getting caught in the doors, I guess. Part 2 really made me afraid of a lot of things, especially that truck with, like, wood. Holy shit. Pretty cool death. I will say great death. Then we have Rory. His death was cartoonish. Use a little more effort. No. You belong in qualities on par with my content, which is to say bad. Then we have, what's his face? Tim. I like the whole sequence where he's at the dentist's. Also, another reason why as a kid I was frightened of going to the dentist's. Yeah, you know what? I like his death. Great deaths. It was pretty good. He ended up getting flattened by a sheet of glass. That's pretty cool. Then we have these two, Ashley and Ashlyn. Part 3, by the way. Another thing that made me terrified, after having seen Part 3 as a kid, I swore to myself I would never go into a tanning bed ever.
It's way too warm in here now, huh?
If I ever wanted to work on a tan, go out into the sun. I am not going through what these two went through. Memorable. As a matter of fact, go. Then we have Aaron. This is the movie where they realized, hey, we're making Final Destination movies where anything can be a weapon and anything can essentially result into the death of a person. Why don't we make one in a home repair shop like Home Depot or Lowe's? And let me tell you, holy shit, in any of these aisles there's a possibility I may die. This chick, Erin, gets absolutely obliterated. She gets like 30 nails in her head. I always admired that death as a kid. That's weird. Her death it's actually one of the most like well known from the series. Part 3 has some of the best death sequences of all time. You go up there, especially because I used to work in places like Home Depot. Sick. Then we have this guy. Who the hell is this guy? Oh, Frankie. His death is also glorious. Also one of the reasons why I kind of afraid of sticking my head out of windows and stuff of like a car. His was open. This is the sequence where he's at a drive-through. Vehicle comes in from behind. Motor pops out. And motor essentially, it like digs into his head. And his death, top tier. I'm beginning to see a trend here with Part 3 that all their deaths are top tier. I think that might have been the one I'd seen the most as a kid. No, I think Part 4. Between Part 3 and Part 4. Then we have Ian McKinley, and I only remember his last name because that was like the whole crux of like that later half of that third film. McKinley.
Ian McKinley, he causes my death.
By getting smashed. He gets squished by like I don't know what you'd call it actually, but he gets squished by that. Not the best thing ever, but it's still pretty good, so serviceable death. Lewis. We have Lewis. Lewis's death is one of the most ridiculous in that movie. I always find it funny. It's like the only funny one out of all the gruesome deaths in Part 3.
What I tell you, Kevin, huh?
I can't believe they actually have real swords in that gym. Not the best death, but you know, it serviceable. Does its job pretty good. Does what it needs to do, and it makes you fear weights falling on your head, I guess. Then we have Amy? Perry. Perry gets like stabbed by a flagpole. Her death is kind of like Ian's. I think it actually happens around the same time as Ian's. Serviceable. Actually, I'm not feeling that one. You go down there. Yeah. Could use a little more effort. She just gets stabbed. I don't think that would... I mean... Okay, she gets stabbed by a flagpole. So, that would most definitely kill you. Then we go into part 4, which is a lot of people's least favorite. But as a kid, it was between that or part 3 in terms of the one I had seen the most. I'm kind of fond of part 4. This guy's death. He's a mechanic. I don't remember his name. I liked his death a lot. It was pretty gruesome. I don't think his death could work though, because that's not how that works. But you know what? Serviceable. Carter, I'm not a fan of Carter. Plus, we already have an amazing Carter.
That's too bad.
Dick!
Although his character was was the absolute worst. He was so racist from what I remember. You're gonna put like a burning cross in someone's front lawn. But his death was pretty funny. I actually liked it. Him getting dragged across the street by his truck, that's serviceable. Even though probably the worst character of all of these characters, which is saying something. George's death is kind of like Terry's in that he gets run over out of the blue. The main character was having a dream inside of, the visions that they always have, but it was a vision inside of like a vision because he died. He'd gotten run over, but he actually didn't. But then he did actually get run over later in the same way that would appear in the vision. It's bizarre. I'll leave it down there. Quality is on par with my content. It could be much better. I don't know who the hell that guy is. Oh, never mind. Another thing that absolutely terrified me as a kid, going into pools. Not because of logical reasons like, maybe drowning or getting electrocuted. Maybe there's like some, I don't know, someone throws in a TV or something, you know? Something logical. Although, now that I said that out loud, that it's actually pretty illogical. Why would someone throw a TV into a pool? You get what I mean. Instead, he gets... Essentially, what happens is the pool starts to get drained, and he gets pulled down to the bottom of the pool, and his insides get sucked out. I remember as a kid being absolutely terrified by that. Absolutely terrified. I remember his character being kind of sleazy. And that's on par with this movie series. His death, definitely a goat. Then we have this guy. I don't know who this guy is. Oh, no wonder I don't know who this guy is. Yeah, no, his death is the lamest of the series. He gets, like, crushed by a bathtub from, like, the floor above him in a hospital. You also stay there, sir. One of the absolute most bland death sequences of the whole series. Now, I had said that I would include visions, like deaths that occurred in visions, so kind of like the giant accidents that kick off all the movies, so like the giant plane crash or the highway pileup. However, there is one that I felt I needed to include, Laurie's death. Maybe it's just me that I used to do it as a kid because of this film. Thank you. Part 4. You know how sometimes people jump over that last step on an escalator. People sometimes tie their shoes before going onto an escalator because like, oh, I don't want my shoelaces to get caught. They kind of play with that throughout this film, right? She has untied shoelaces and it's like, oh, tie your shoelace. Oh, wow, that Well, they do show what happens when this chick accidentally gets caught in the escalator, and it is gruesome. She gets absolutely chewed up by the gears. That being said, every time I rewatch her death, it is by far the best thing in that film. Goat. Part 5. It's the only one I didn't grow up watching because it came out later after all the other ones had kind of come out from what I remember. And it's a Final Destination film, so of course I'm gonna love it. Olivia. Words cannot describe her death sequence. I'm just gonna automatically put her in Goat. She essentially goes to get LASIK, laser eye surgery. And let's just say it doesn't go the way it was intended to go. Yeah, her eye gets like burned, and then she falls out of a building, and then her other eye falls out of its socket. Help me! Pretty gruesome, pretty memorable though. Fun story. I had a friend, she's probably gonna watch this and be like, fuck you, Robert. She was gonna get laser eye surgery, and I decided a couple days before, let me show her this movie with that laser eye surgery sequence. My bad. Then we got Roy. Roy is an absolute grade A dick. Roy is a character you're made to hate, and works. Absolutely hate the bastard. You kind of root for death when it comes after him, but he gets a hook through his head. Because of that, you know what? Great death. Even though it's simple, it's just a hook through the head. Then we have, wait a minute. You're from part 4. Samantha, I think, is her name. Backtrack to part 4. She gets a rock lodged into her eye. This one is pretty cool too because there's a bunch of fake outs in terms of like, oh, how's she gonna die? I remember there being like a curling iron that's like right next to like a hairspray bottle, and like the hairspray bottle blows up and it hits like a ceiling fan and the ceiling fan falls. Instead, she's like outside and there's like someone's using a lawnmower, and a rock gets lodged in the lawnmower and it goes flying and it goes into her eye socket. I love that whole sequence. So, bam. Back to part 5. Agent Block. Agent Block is one of the few characters in this series to die, not because death is chasing after him, but through other events. He gets shot. So you stay there. Candace. Kind of like Samantha from part 4, where like there's a bunch of fake outs. There's a lot of fake outs with her death. She's a gymnast, so she's doing like backflips and a bunch of very dangerous jumps. There are so many fake outs. It's amazing. She gets like snapped in half. Absolutely obliterated. The instinct. Goat tier. That's actually a pretty great way to open the movie too. Then we have Dennis. Why is this cropped so badly?
Then who would be next?
He gets a wrench thrown through his head.
Dennis! No shit!
Pretty cool stuff. What's his name? Isaac? His death sequence is also pretty funny. It's one of the most extended sequences from the film. To him having all the needles in him, great sequence. Absolutely love it. Great death. Then we have I'm gonna put it as a 2-for-1. Molly and Molly's boyfriend. I forget the name of Molly's boyfriend, even though he's the protagonist of the series and he's the character we're following. They get burned up alive in that plane incident from part 1, because spoilers, part 5 is actually a prequel to part 1. So the ending of part 5 is the beginning of part 1. So the plane crash from part 1 is where they die. You think these characters are gonna make it out alive? Nah, we're burning them. They're all gonna die. Which brings us to Nathan. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't rank their death. Their death, serviceable. Nathan also kind of goes hand in hand with that. His death is the result of the plane crash, but instead it's a plane turbine that like falls on him. And then we get, last but not least, Peter. Peter gets skewered alive. You go there. You get skewered alive. You don't see that often. You don't see that often. Actually, I don't know if you're really on par with these guys. Yeah, that seems better. I think this is actually a pretty spot on list. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I think actually I'm satisfied with this ranking right here. That's my definitive Final Destination deaths ranked. Why did I do this? I don't know. Change background color. What the? Oh. It's ugly. That's awful ugly. That's my ranking of their deaths. I could do a ranking of like the incidents, the instigating incidents at the beginning of each film. So like the plane crash. So, or you know what? I'll put it up on screen where those would go. And yeah, have you guys seen the Final Destination movies? And if not, why? And if you have seen them, tell me why you like them. Because there's no reason for you to not like them. Holy shit. Why do I do this to myself? I don't know why I subjugate myself to this fucking torture.